So the title is Group by in Power Query. So we're going to go from basic to advanced. Our speaker, our presenter is Tolu Lokere, and we already know today's date and time, so no need to remind you of that. This session is powered by your BZEdge and MHS Analytics. We've been running this since 2020, so we know that it brings value to the community, and that's why we've kept it alive, even though it's been very difficult, and it's always been free for people to benefit from. And we've been bringing you speakers from all around the world. So if you know anyone within your network, or even you yourself, if you need training on Microsoft Excel, on SQL, on Power BI, on financial modeling, and on most of the data analysis tools that are now being used by modern companies, reach out to us, and you might be lucky that we have just the perfect class for you. And as you already can get from the way we do our trainings and engagements, we focus on value. We believe that if you get the value that you are seeking for, then our business will grow. So we are not just trying to get connection with HR and management and let them force training through the pipeline for us. We try to directly focus on the people that need the training. So that's always been our focus. And we make sure that we give after training support. We make it very easy for people who come for our training to feel that support, to know that it was not transactional. It wasn't like they showed up for a few days and then we say bye bye to them and never should they come back. That's not the way we do things. We believe that if people get genuine value, then that's the only way our business will be sustainable. And I'm going to share the link of our online portal. So we know a lot of people, maybe you are trying to explore something new and you don't want to commit fully into a physical class. You can do, a short online class just to be aware of that new thing. It could be Power Apps, Power Platform. It could be on SQL. It could be on something that you have interest in, but you don't yet know if you're going to fully commit to doing it or just want to explore. So I will share this link so that you can have access to our digital content. Most of the contents are paid, but some are free. Or should I say some are paid, some are free, because there are a lot of free stuff there too. So you can take advantage of the free resources too. MHS Analytics is our Canadian entity. So if you know anyone outside of Nigeria who that time zone works better for, or maybe it's easier for their company to approve a training by a Canadian company, provided by a Canadian entity. So whatever reasons that will make it that's the one they want to engage us via, we are also live on ground in Canada, and you get same quality as you are used to. All right, so we have come to the very important aspect, which is what you have come for. So our presenter today is Tolu Okere. He's actually one of us. She's one of us in your BizEdge, and I'm going to share her LinkedIn, so you can connect with her. She's a certified data analyst. She's got now it's even 5 years of experience working for different companies across different industries, and also in the consulting space. She's had to deliver value and solutions, and trainings to companies across Nigeria, different industry, different geography. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to her so that she can take us on the live demo. So Tolu, over to you.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. I'm honored. Okay, so as she said, our topic for today is going to be group by in Power Query. That's the Excel in Power Query. You understand that Power Query is used both in Excel and in Power BI, but for this session, we'll be using the one in Excel. So I'll just start by sharing my screen. Okay. Yeah, so group by in Power Query. Group by, just like many other Excel functions, help you to summarize large data sets in Excel. You can And there are different ways to summarize data sets. We are very familiar with things like pivot table, which I'm a big fan of. There are other things like dynamic array functions, where you can also combine other functions with dynamic array functions to create beautiful summaries of your data. And as I said, the good old Power pivot tables comes in very handy also. You can also use the subtotal and grouping feature while trying to summarize data in Power BI. Okay, this is just about me, and Michael has already said that. So how does the group by feature work? So in Power Query, there's a feature called group by, and remember the whole essence of Power Query is to transform your data, or will I say to manipulate, to prepare your data for analysis. So you do your cleaning and whatnot in Power Query, then your final analysis can be brought into Excel or Power BI for further analysis. So this is one of the tools or the importance of Power Query, very important for cleaning and transforming your data. While Excel itself, although you can use functions to do that, some functions may not be available at the time, or it may be more tricky to use Excel formulas to perform some functions. So I just want to show us how the group by feature works. And group by feature is easy, and if I do say so, it helps us to group large sums of data into rows and columns in a summarized format. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So we're going to show reminding us of the topic of today. We are going from basic to advanced. So I'm not going to dwell so much on these slides, but we're going from basic, the basic use of group by feature up to the advanced stage of group by feature. So let me just go to Excel. So I'm going to open up Excel in my it's a sheet I'm going to work on. So I will drop the link to that sheet in the chat box so that we can have access to it in case you want to work on it simultaneously. So let me just. I think I'll have to share this with. Let's see if you can access this. It's coming in a different format. Oh, okay. All right, so I have this table, is a sales data table for a company that sells gadgets from January. It's just for a year, from January to December 2021. And this is the sales amount. We have product category, the name of the sales rep, city, just a basic sales table. Then in order for us to utilize the group by feature, remember we're working with Power Query, we have to go into Power Query. So we click on data, then we go to get data from other sources, so from table or range. And what it does here is to highlight the table that we're working on. So because I've already worked on this table in the past, that's why it's just brought me straight directly to Power Query. So while we are here in Power Query, we have the queries that we're working on: sales table and sales table 2. So it's this sales table 2. I'll just rename it to sales data. Sales underscore data. So I'm going to call it sales data. Yeah. Okay. So basic group by works easily. You can see the feature here, group by. You can find it in the home ribbon or home tab, and you can also find it in the transform tab, group by. And what the group by does, let me just do a easy sample. So for example, I want to know the number of regions, right? How much I made per region. So I click on the region tab, on the region column, and I click on group by. It brings up a dialog box, and it asks me to specify which column I want to group by. So I'm grouping by region. Is there any operation I want to take? Maybe I want to do something like a sum. I want to do an average, any arithmetic or numerical operation. I can choose what column I want to do the operation on. So for example, I'll say I want to do that on the, for example, let me say amounts, and then I choose sum. I want to find the total sum of amounts of the amounts column. And when I say okay, what happens is that it groups it just like the way pivot table will work for you. It gives me the total sum or total sales for Southwest, for North, and for Southwest, because these are the regions we have in our table. So this is just how group by works on the basic. I'm going to duplicate this table so I can always refer to it, and I will delete this step so we can go back. So that's the basic way. You can just group by a single column and it gives you a total amount for a single column. Taking it a step higher, we can group by two columns. So for example, you want to know the region that's making a certain amount of sales. I want to know, for example, maybe the category or the month. Could be anything. So let's do region and sales rep. So if I hold my control key and select two, now this time around I'm selecting two columns and I say group by, it's going to have, I'm going to two of the columns are going to appear here, and also it has changed from basic to advanced. If we're choosing only one column, it is automatically basic. But if we choose one column and we want to move to the advanced stage, we can always add grouping. So once you click on add grouping, it changes to advanced. Let me do that for us to see. So for example, I want to group by, like we did the first time, by region. I click on the group by icon. See that is basic, right? So if I click on advanced, I can always add more grouping. So I can choose, okay, by region and also by, maybe by sales rep, for example. And then, do I want to do any calculation? Maybe I say, I want to know the sales amount. So I'll call this column sales amount. And I want to, or I can even do average instead of, let me call it average sales amount. So average sales amount. And I want to get the average of the sales column. So I have it as amount. Then I say, okay. So now it has given me kind of two grouping. So it's grouping both by region and by sales. And some of us may be wondering, okay, so what's so spectacular about the group by if we can always do stuff like this in Power Query? So there's sometimes that you might need to manipulate the data even before bringing it into Excel, or maybe the data is too large, or some instances may come up where you might need to do some form of tweaking to your data before bringing it into Excel. So there's another thing I would like to show us. So I encountered this problem, I think last month. I wanted to, the task I was faced with was to group, for example, the list. Okay, let me use the sales data as an example. I have my region, I have my sales rep, I have average amount. Let me just go back a bit. I also have the months. I also have the products that each sales rep has sold. So someone was asking, the request was to give me the name of the sales rep and the number of the number of products that they've sold. So for example, in this case, I have my sales rep name as Tola. So I see that Tola sold Dell XPS 13. And I'm sure she sold many other things because this table is more than 1,000 rows. So I want to know how many products each of my sales reps sold. So it may seem very easy. So I'll duplicate this again. I'll duplicate this table again. Go back. So I just cancel these steps. Yeah. So I have my table here again. Now I want to find out what each sales rep made sold. So I have the sales rep's name and the product. So easily I can go into sales rep group by, and I want to know and move it on to advanced and add products and maybe the amount. that was sold. So I can do the sum of amount of all the products that whoever sold what. So I say amount, and then I say okay. So with this, I can see that these are the names of the sales rep. These are the products that they sold. These are the amounts. So let me just sort this alphabetically and let's see what's happening here. So I can see that Ahmed is repeating. His name is repeating. They are duplicates of his name just because he's selling more than one unique product. He has 4 products that he sold. Ayo, the same thing. For Bola, for Gloria, for all the other sales rep, the same thing. But the way I want this data to come out, if I can quickly go back to my Power BI, my PowerPoint. So imagine these are the names of my sales rep, and these are what they sold. What I was asked to do was to give me a table that looks like this. So yeah, so for ABC, I want to see that he sold good 1, good 3, good 5 using a separator like a comma. So with this, how do we achieve that here? So what we need to do, first things first, is to using the user interface, it might not be so straightforward to really know what to do. So what we have to do here is same way we did the others. We go to group by, yes. So we're grouping sales rep, right? And we want to find the products that each sales rep sold. So we want a distinct distinct list for this sales rep, and also the names of the products that they sold separated by a comma. But if you look at the operation that we have here, new column name operation, we only have arithmetic kind of operations that can be carried out. And it might be a bit tricky because the the product column here is text, and we can't sum text, we can't count. You understand what I mean? So what we're going to do, we're just going to tweak the formula in a bit. So before I do that, let me just cancel this step. Then I go back to my group by. I just want everybody to be with me. Now I'm going to call this new table products. Yeah. And then the operation we're going to carry out now is sum. Just follow me as I go. Then products. And then I'll say, okay. So what's going to happen now is that it's giving me an error. It's nothing to be scared of. And what's happening, if you look at the formula tab at the top, we can see that, let me open it up. Let me try to explain what's happening in this formula tab. This table group is the step that has just been placed. So grouped rows 1 is the table groups. Then these grouped rows that we're seeing here is the previous step that was carried out. That's this first group rows. Then sales rep now is the first column in the table you grouped. Then the product is the second column. Then the content of this product column now is, if you remember, we did an operation and we used sum. That's why we have this function here, list sum here in mQuery. So what we need to do, instead of having sum, we have to tweak this in a way that it will accept text values in a column. So instead of using lists.sum, we're going to use text.combine. So it's just like concatenate. And we don't have concatenate in Power Query in that operation. So this is what we have to use. So the second argument in the text combine is separator. So what kind of delimiter or separator do we need to use? So I want to separate by a comma and a space. So once I do this, I just commit, I just click on enter. And we see that the list has been populated. I can see this is what what's her name, Tola, has sold for the year. You understand what is happening here? This is the list of what each person has sold. So it's still showing this error. So just to clear that error, what you need to do is just go back a step and come back, and that error would disappear. Okay, so in some cases, once you do something like this, you might have duplicates of your, maybe the number of items that was sold in your product list. So in order to remove duplicates, in between the text combined, you bring in list dot distinct yes, open your bracket and you just close it around here and say enter. So it will remove any form of duplicates that may exist in that column. So you see, just with tweaking the M query or the M code, we're able to perform this kind of aggregation or text aggregation, if I may put it that way. So summarizing or combining text. So I'll just call this table combine text. So it shows what we just did here. Okay, there's another very, will I call it very tricky function that you may need group by for. So let me just duplicate this table again. So now in this case here, let me go back to the first table that we had. Yes, remember that we had a column called month name. So if you are tasked with, you need to find the maximum sales amount for the month made by each sales rep. So you want to group by the sales rep, and then you also want to know what month did they make the highest sales. That can be very tricky, but we have to tweak our M query in a certain way to understand or to get our desired result. So I'm going to call this table that's maximum month sales, something like this. Okay. So just for us to get more clarity on how this this code is written down, or this query is written down, I'll just separate it so that we can see what's happening. I'll also break down what's also happening in the query here. Okay. The first thing here, the table group is the group by step that was taken. Group by. Then the grouped rows is the previous step. So the step before the step we are now. So these group rows here. The sales rep is this column. The product is also this column. Remember now, what we're trying to do is to add a column that shows the months with the highest sales. So first things first, in order to get that, we would, let me also separate this. So this place that you see type nullable text is just giving us the data type of our text. I mean the data type of our column rather. So I just deleted that. We don't really need that. So what we need, if you notice the curly brackets here, they just represent the columns that we're working with. So this curly bracket of sales rep represents the sales column, and the curly brackets of the products, the product here represents the product column. So let's move on. Now we need to create a new column. So I'll just open up curly brackets. And once I open up the curly brackets, I would now type in the name of the new column I want to type in. And my column, let's just call it max month. I have to put it in double quotes also. So max month, max month sale, right? Then looking at what we have above, we have this each, and each speaks to, in this case, each speaks to the list, that's the column. Whenever you type each and you type in underscore, this underscore here refers to a table. Underscore here refers to a table. Okay. So I need to put this curly bracket here. I have to do the second one here. Okay. So let me show you what's going to happen now. A new table will be added because of this each underscore. It brings up a table. If I click on this table, what's going to happen is that for every of Tola's sales, so for her product and her amount, we can find them within this table. I need to go back a few steps because I need the whole table. I don't just need the table that is already grouped. So I'll just cancel this step and also cancel this step. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to group by again. Please, I hope we're all together and I hope you're with me. So we're grouping sales rep, right? Group by the sales rep. And then the next thing we did was to the products, right? Right. The products, we did some. So I'm just doing that over again. And I said, okay. Give us this error and we can fix this error. By doing what? By changing this list sum to text combine. Text.combine. Open the parentheses and we need to put a separator and that is the comma we are using. So we've done this and it has given us the text. So this one even gives us so much duplicate. So this is where the list.distinct function works. So just in between the text combined. So let me zoom in a bit so for those that cannot see. So I'll bring in list.distinct, and I'll open my parentheses and I would also should close it before comma. Yeah. And then I should say, okay, think distinct. What's happening? Maybe it's spelling.
Yeah, someone suggested that it's capital D.
Oh yeah, that's why. Small. Thank you. That's why. So we have to pay attention to details. It's the spelling of the distinct that was the issue. So it has removed the duplicates for us. So to remove this red bar, thank you, you'd just go back a step and come back and you have something that looks like this. So what we're trying to do, let me recall our step again. We're trying to get the month with the highest sales or the maximum sales. And as I said earlier, I don't need this part because it speaks to the data type. So it's not really needed. I'm just breaking down the M query for us to understand better. So let me just go over it a bit again. The table.group speaks to this step we are. The change type speaks to the step before the step we are in now. The sales rep speaks to the column that this group by table has generated for us. And the product also speaks to the column that the group by table has created for us. So we need to add a new column that speaks to the highest month or the month that has the maximum sales by each sales rep. So let's go on together. We open up curly brackets to type in the name of our new column, and in double quotes, we're going to type in max months sales, right? Or sales. You can call it whatever. The next thing you have to put a comma. The next thing you type in each, and I said each space underscore gives you a or returns a table. So what's happening? Each space underscore returns a table. Okay, I see where the issue is. It's supposed to be. Yeah. So each space underscore returns a table. And this is the table. So for Tola now, that is a sales rep. These are all the corresponding data that she has. So this is her city, this is her region, this are the number of units she sold, these are the amounts, and these are the months that she has sold in. So it gives you everything. It works similarly to what we have in the all row function. So with this, we also need to bring in what we need now is the maximum amount, right? And we know that it is in this amount column. So in order to pick this amount column here, we have to put in this we have to bring in amount in square brackets, just like the way we have product here in square brackets. So now what happens now? It has given us a list. So I can choose this and I can see that it has given me the list of all Tola sales for the month of January to December. But this is not exactly what I need. What I need is the maximum sales. From here, I can see that she made higher sales around this $12,000. So we need to find that. So there's a function for that, and that function is called table max. Remember, we're working in this case in a table because of this each underscore we used. So we're going to type in table dot max. Yes. And then you open your bracket. Now the argument for table dot max is table, and that is the underscore that's used to represent table. And the second argument is the column that you're working with, and that is the amount column. But in this case now, we have to, because it's within the table, we have to write this amount in a what's it called? Double quotes instead of square brackets. Let me go back again. Okay. So we have to just pay attention to details. Okay, so I said the table, taking us aback a bit. The table for Tola is this, everything that is in the sales rep Tola is within this table, but we need to extract the amount. And then the next thing we did was to come here and type in amount. Right. And it gave us a list. And we said with this list, we need to get the maximum amount from this list. So we need a function that is called table max. So from here, I'll type in table max, table max, table.max rather, table.max. And the first argument for table.max is, let me just zoom in a bit. The first argument for table.max is the table, and that's why we have underscore. Then the next one is the amount. So let's do this and see. It's giving me a problem again. Okay. try it one
Could
more
it be
time.
list dot max? Like instead of table, if you put list
Because
dot max.
pick I need to pick both I need a table because I need to pick 2 columns from the table. But this is what I need to do. I also need the month name. No, the name of the table is month space name. It's capital letter, right? Now change that to I know what's happening now. It has given me what I need to see. Okay, so what has happened here is that let me try to explain. The table.max function has gone into the table and it has picked the maximum amount in the amount column and also giving me the column name, the column that has the month name with the maximum amount, if that makes sense. So with this, I can see that Tola made the highest sales in June, Bola made the highest sales in December, and it goes like that. So I know there were some glitches here and there, but that just goes to show with Power Query and M code in its entirety, it needs so much attention to details and practice upon practice. And it's as you work with it that you even understand some of what this function does. It was when I encountered this problem and tried to solve it that I came up. I mean, I learned about some of these functions. But with this, I hope we are clear. And I hope it's made a little sense here and there. So I will just load my table into Excel to see what we have done. Okay, for this, what did we do here? We did multiple columns, we grouped by multiple columns. Okay, so I'll just close and load. I'll be expecting our questions as we go on. Okay. With something like Power Query, we would not be able to find, like we can't do this combining text to the best of my knowledge. I don't think there's a way we can do this with pivot tables rather. We might not be able to do this. So, but with something like the group by feature in Power BI, sorry, in Power Query, and with the use of tweaking of the M code here and there, we might be able to come up with stuff like this. In Excel on its own, you might need a lot of functions, maybe some if functions in between. But getting this using Power Query to get this would be easier and more straightforward if you're comfortable using M code or M query. Yeah. Okay, that's all from my end. I'll be expecting our questions if we have any.
Okay, so checking. Thanks. So, one question that I know people do have about Power Query. So the question is, now within the context of Excel, because even now we are talking within the Power Query within Excel. So the question is, what is between Power Query, Power Power Pivot, and the normal Excel grid? What's like a guideline of, okay, how I will know that I should do this in Power Query, or I should do it within the Excel grid, or I should go do it in Power Pivot. So, do you want to help me understand?
Yeah. Yes, I can answer that question. So for me, it depends on how comfortable you are with any of those tools. So if you're someone who can easily manipulate data using functions and formulas to the best in the best way possible, you wouldn't need to go into Power Query to do what I just did now. But if you for Power Query, the good thing about Power Query is that it gives you like the UI, the user interface, some things that you would ordinarily have to use functions for in normal Excel grid. You just have to just click in Power Query and you can go on with doing it with just a click. And the good thing also is that Power Query easily works with larger sums of data. So no matter how large your data is, you can easily refresh. It allows easy automation, automated refresh. It allows for larger sums, although you can also use larger sums of data in Excel too, but somehow you may need to use either Power Pivot or Power Query to even bring this data into Excel. So in the answer to me will just be your comfortability level. And if you're someone who likes to take up challenges and learn more, Power Query is something you should embrace because apart from the fact that the user interface solves so many problems that we may face, the M code or the M query that you can use to tweak those formulas comes in very handy. There's so much that you can do with the codes if you're very comfortable using them. So if someone is asking if we can achieve the same output using Power Pivot, I've not tried it using Power Pivot, but there should be a function. So you may be able to use the concatenate function in Power Pivots. I cannot say for sure because I've not tried it, but it's something we can all explore. But I hope I was able to answer the question.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Any more questions? Okay, the person has also put in the box in the chat that okay, thanks. Okay, and all right. So any other question? Looking at all the names in the call, right? And if you are new to okay, if you are also new to these power tools within Excel, a lot of people keep thinking that Power Query is just in Power BI. If you're new to all these tools, I would suggest that you take advantage of the file that Tolu has shared. You download the file and you try to give this a practice. You try to get comfy with the concept of Power Query within Excel because uh, as she has demonstrated, it's a tool that is powerful. I'm sure that's why it's called Power Query. So you don't want to just like when you have a house and you've got 5 rooms and many things, facilities, and you just limit yourself to just an aspect of your house. But you paid for everything. You kind of like will be like, it makes no sense. Why should I a have all these amenities and I'm not using them? So it's the same concept too that I want to enjoin you to take the same approach to try them out. So I'm going to just point back to the file that she shared, and also I'm sharing in the chat that you can let us know. So the person who said we should do more of these sessions, so you can just also help us go through the feedback form and say, okay, these are the types of sessions you want more of, suggestions of what topics for us to do. And so, Tolu, one more question for you. Looks like I'm the one asking the questions on behalf of all the audience. So, I noticed that when you are explaining some of the processes you are taking, you sometimes we do it. You start with the clicks and tools already on the user interface in Power Query, and then you walk us through what it has done, and then you show us what we want to achieve, and then we tweak it. So, the question now I want to ask is that an approach that you want people to become comfortable with? Like, let me say it this way. Is there a strategy to using that approach versus one trying to think of how to write the whole thing from scratch? Let me put it that way.
Mm. I believe in working smart anyway. So there might be some people that would find it very easy to type it in from scratch. They know what all the functions mean. The beautiful thing about writing M query or M code, as you saw some of the setbacks I experienced, is the attention to detail. So you have to understand what each comma means, what each semicolon means, what each curly bracket means, and in order for you to be able to write from scratch. But the basics is with learning more, maybe attending webinars like this, practicing on your own, you'll be able to understand what one or two things mean. So what I did from what I exhibited earlier, looking at taking the UI step first gives you simple clarity, but there might be cases where the normal UI cannot solve the problem you're trying to achieve. And you can do this in Power Query. You can research on ways people have solved the problems in the past or something similar to the problem you're facing. And with that, you notice that sometimes you might need to learn how to write this query. That means you must get yourself familiar with some of these functions. The functions are numerous. So, but right, starting with the UI interface or UI steps first. That's the user interface first steps first helps you with clarity, if I put it that way, or it's good for a beginner. Then tweaking it here and there, knowing what you need to change, would also help you manipulate your data to the type of response, results you'd like to see. So it's up to you to, if you're very comfortable using them queries and codes, write them from scratch. But if you're still learning and you are building on what you have learned, it's better to use the UI interface first, and then type in the queries as we go on. Hope that answers the
Yeah.
question.
Thanks. In fact, why I even asked it is uh I think we've got, I can't remember who, but we've had a few other people to come present on Power Query. And this is the same approach they keep using. They try to
Mm,
do as much as possible with the user interface and then do
yes.
minor adjustments. And like you've said, it's about working smart. Why, if I can press a button to go out, to open a door, why do I want to look for screwdriver and hammer and I want to remove the door and go out and put it back? So I think that it's a general approach that people who work with Power Query find really fast, less headache. You don't have to. Power Query is finicky with all these, especially uppercase, lowercase, that we don't typically bother with in formulas
Yes.
in Excel. So that's
And
another
SQL.
extra workload.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I just wanted to buttress the point that I think it's the smart way to work with Power Query, and I've been noticing it across all the other sessions we've had, that that's the way people approach. Even when I go for sessions that are by people outside of our own platform, too, that's the same approach they always try to take. Do the marks with the user interface, then try to understand what's doing so that it's not like you're just doing it and you don't even know how to read what it's doing. And then at some point you begin to change it a bit, you begin to make some adjustment to achieve something that might not be possible directly by clicking. Okay, so I think we have come to the end. I don't know if anybody else has any questions before we uh, close the entire session. And I hope you've learned. And the key thing is not just about passively watching and attending this session. It's about, you know, applying what you've learned and also watching how the presenter, does what their thought process and how if they do something it doesn't give the answer they want, how they also go back and fix it. So because the truth is, it is it is in these kind of sessions where it's not edited that you will see the thought process of an expert. It's not in those edited ones where you don't know if the part that you are watching was actually 20 minutes away from the last 1 minute that you watch. But uh, take advantage of all these sessions, take advantage of the practice files, and try to do more with them. Uh, I'm looking at our chat. I don't see any new thing. So I'm going to once again thank Tolu for the session. And I'm going to share our YouTube link. Okay, I can see Olagoke is also saying thank you. So I'll also share the YouTube link so that you can go check out recordings of this session and other sessions. And then I'll close it upon doing that. Okay. We have one other session happening in about 1 hour's time. So maybe I'll also share the details of that one too, so that you can join. Let me even just share my screen so you see all of these. So the session recordings. So today's session that we've just finished, the recording will be live by tomorrow. Okay, so I've shared it, and maybe I'll share my screen so you see what it looks like. So that link takes you to the channel, and you will see that we've got a whole lot of 625 videos over many years. And so it's going to be very difficult for you to say you won't find something really new uh, and valuable for you, because as long as all these videos that you see are on data analysis, I don't think you will know everything about what the 625 videos I've talked about. Then to quickly just mention, we have a session coming up soon. So I'm going to also meet up is we have David Abiola coming in soon to join us in about an hour for this Power BI session. And as you can see, the topic is, if you feel like, oh, this is above me, then that's more reason why you should join. Because it's better you are aware of what the future is, where the future is going, and decide that, okay, yes, at least I'm aware. Whatever I now do afterwards is an informed decision, than to just stick your head in the sand and be like, no, I'm not going to bother. So time is 6 p.m. UTC, West African time +1 today. So don't miss it. And you can join directly at the start time via, so you can join directly at the start time via this link I'm sharing. Okay. So with that, we have come to the end of today's session. I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'll say a very big thank you to Tolu for today's session. And thank you to everyone who had joined us today. And we hope to see you next week. And if you agree with what I've said, that be aware of whatever is new, then please join us also in 1 hour's time for the Power BI one. So thank you.